the storm. And so I wrote this probably about 4 weeks ago, and then I tweaked it up some last week. So I started this new format, and if I stick to it, the way I speak and how I sound and things like that tends to be a little bit better than me just coming up here and being like, I'm just going to wing it, okay? So I wrote this out a few weeks ago, and then I fine-tuned it last week. And I try to always incorporate what I'm going through currently. So the current storm that I'm in is for the past year, people have left. I didn't say die, just they're still around, but they have left. Whether that's on my leadership team, we've had 2 people on our leadership team leave. I've had 2 people on staff that I was very close with. One who essentially pushed for me to get hired on full time has left. And then a couple of other people were just like, the whipped cream on top of my banana sundae. And then last week was the cherry on top. I got told that a friend of mine who's like a brother is going to leave. So he's leaving early next year. And so it hit me, and all last week I was thinking about it, and I'm like, man, the past year I've gone through a lot of change. Can anybody guess what my word for the year is? Change. I don't do well with change. I don't know, anybody else do well with change? Few people, yeah. Those who raise your hand, kudos to you, because I don't do well with change. It's not something that I love. It's not something that I want to embrace, but it's part of life. Change is going to happen. Good or bad, it's just going to happen, right? You can't avoid it. And so that's my change. That's my storm that I'm going through. And I was at GLS, which is our global leadership summit that we host here at Faith Promise. And I was listening to a guy, his name is Sholo Richards. And during a season of his life, he was going through some things too. And his dad is from Africa. And so he told his son, he goes, do you want to be the buffalo or the cow? I don't know about you guys. I was like, okay, I'm interested now. You're talking about buffalo and cows in a storm. What could go wrong with this picture? And so he explained it like this. A cow will run from the storm. And you think, well, that's smart. Run from the storm, getting away from it, right? Nope. A cow only prolongs what's going to happen. Eventually, the storm's going to catch up to it. It always does. The storm will always catch up. Don't fool yourself. Don't lie to yourselves. Eventually, you're going to get through the storm. So you could be the cow and run from it. I think that's where the word coward come from. That's just my opinion. Or you could be the buffalo. What the buffalo does is he embraces the storm. He goes through the storm. And you're like, that's difficult, that's hard. Yes, that's how you get strong. So that's how the buffalo gets strong, right? He sees the storm coming. He goes through it. He deals with it. He's resilient. He's not going to let it keep him down. And does he have to stay with the storm long? No. Because as the storm's going this way, he's going this way. And he won't have to deal with it as long. You see, in our recovery is the same way. We can either run from it or run into it. And you got 3 options in recovery. You can embrace the storm, go through it, and deal with the change. Because it's going to happen one way or another. You could go to jail, and eventually you're still going to deal with the change. You're just prolonging dealing with it. But eventually it's going to catch up to you. Or the third, and we've all dealt with it, and it's just part of life. And eventually we will all reach to this point, but I don't know about you guys. I'm in my 30s. I'm not ready to go anywhere just yet. But you could die. Those are your 3 options. Run into the storm, find recovery, change, deal with it less, go to jail, deal with it anyways, right? Prolong the storm, or you keep running, and eventually the storm's going to get you, and you're just going to be done. I don't know about you guys. I like the first option way better than the other 2. Now, I've dealt with the second one from time to time. It's not a fun experience. Anybody else had a fun experience going to jail? Yep. Just wasn't fun for me. And so when I think about this, when I think about us going through the storm, when I think about our recovery world, and that change is going to happen regardless. The story and the guy that I think of in the Bible is Job. Right? And if you don't know anything about Job loved God and was rich beyond measure. He had livestock and cattle, kids who adored him. Rich, I mean, you think of the richest person in the world, that's Job, right? And at some point, for whatever reason, Satan goes to God and says, the only reason Job loves you is because your hand's on him. You give him everything. It's the only reason he loves you. It's the only reason he worships you. It's the only reason he does sacrifices to you. So God says, okay. Do your worst to him. Just don't touch him. Don't touch him. But you can do anything else. Anything else you want to him. In a very quick time, he had 4 servants come to him. One came to him and said, Master, everything's gone. They killed your livestock. They killed your camels. Your land's gone. Oh, and by the way, your kids died. They were all together. They're done. You lost everything. You have nothing left. You go from being the richest person in the world to having nothing. The agony is so great. He rips his clothes, shaves his beard, shaves his head. And he doesn't know what to do. He still worships God. Through this whole experience, he never loses his faith. He still prays God even after all that news. I don't know about you guys. That'd be hard for me. Come tell me my animals are dead, my house is gone, my kids are gone. I mean, I know I talk bad about my kids sometimes, but I do love them. I just couldn't imagine. But he's still praising God. So Satan goes back to God. Let me mess with him. Everybody wants to save themselves. Let me mess with him. God says, fine, go. So Satan goes, messes with him. Job wakes up, he's got bulls and scars, and he's just like, he can't stand it. He's in so much pain, so much agony, scratching with pottery, trying to get everything off, and just can't. And he's miserable. But throughout this whole storm of his life, he's still faithful. His wife even tells him, just repent. And it's just a churchy word for like making a 180. His friends are like, you clearly did something wrong for God to turn on you like he did. Clearly you messed up somewhere down the line. And they're sitting there the whole time telling Job, their so-called friend, well, this must be the sin that you did. Or this must be the sin that you did. He's got no support from his wife, no support from his friends. Everything's gone. But he still loves God. How many times in early recovery, or even late recovery, when a storm comes and we're like, God must not be there. I woke up late, my alarm didn't go off. There's traffic, I'm going to be late for work. My kids overslept, I overslept. Now they're going to be late for school and I'm going to be late for work. My car won't start. How many times do we curse God in those moments? If you truly loved me, I would have woken up. If you truly loved me, my car would have started. If you truly loved me, my kids would be angels. Have you ever thought about maybe he loves you and he did those things out of love? We just celebrated the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and I read a post, and it was talking about all the people that were late getting to the World Trade Center because alarms didn't go off on time. Traffic was bad. I couldn't get a taxi. I spilled coffee on my clothes and I had to turn around to go change. The line at Starbucks was longer than it normally is. And all those people missed going into the World Trade Center and it collapsing on them. All because God had an opportunity for them. But see, we get so caught up in the storm that we can't see past it. We can't see what's on the horizon. And so during Job's journey, God comes to him in the form of a storm. And God's talking to him, because at this point, Job's so upset, like he's mad at God. He's signing declaration, holding it up, saying, answer me. So God does. Be careful what you wish for, what you pray for, what you ask God for. He shows them, were you there when I formed the earth? Were you there when I told the oceans that this is as far as you can go? Were you there when I created all the creatures and showed them all this stuff? You think Job had any comment during that time? Nope. He's like, let me just shut my mouth. I feel like there's time to time where we just need to shut our mouths and listen to God. Psalms 46:10 says, be still and know that I am God. Just that in itself. Be still and know that I am God. We always have a tendency to forget that. He goes on and says, I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. You see, in this passage, I firmly believe that he was not only telling us to be still, but the storm and the circumstances around us to be still as well. When everything seems to going crazy, when the puck, the P-U-C, the pain, the uncertainty, the chaos falls on us, be still. I think he's talking to everyone and everything during that circumstance. Be still and know that I am God. I can imagine he's just talking to us because the storm would still be going. Just like the disciples on the boat when an actual storm was rocking them back and forth and they were scared to death. Where is our master? Anybody know where he was? Sleeping. Why? Because he had a peace. He knew he was going to be fine. It was the disciples that had no clue. They woke him up. He's like, man, you guys have little faith. Be done. Be silent. And the storm. How many times in our life should we just be still and say, God, it's yours? How many times did we give up on ourselves and other people because we didn't hear exactly what we wanted to hear from that individual? How many times are we going to make excuses when one little thing goes wrong in our recovery to get back off track? I couldn't make it last Monday, so I'm just going to go back out and do stuff. So-and-so didn't answer, so I'm going to get drunk. I'm going to get high. Who did you turn to first? The person on the other end of the phone or God? Because if you turn to the other person on the phone first, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. We're all here to love on one another. But at the same time, there's going to be circumstances where we can't answer. Because we may be on the line with someone else in need. And even though your need may be greater, we don't know because we're handling something else. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on the person. And turn it all over to God. You're like, but the temptation is just too strong. First Corinthians 10:13, no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape, that you may be able to endure it. Christian lifestyle doesn't mean you're going to have it nice and easy. That was a mistake I made early on in my Christianity. Thought it was going to be rainbows and unicorns from here on out. God doesn't promise that. What he does promise is that he's going to be faithful and love you no matter what. And that no matter what you do, you're forgiven. Now, that does not mean you can go out here and do whatever you want to because you're forgiven. That doesn't give you a free pass. You're supposed to be a new creation and want new things. The old is past. So when you embrace the storm, who are you calling? When there's temptation, who are you going after? Ask yourself, am I embracing the storm and transition of change? If you can answer yes, kudos. You're in a good spot. Probably means you've been around for a little bit. If you can't answer that question, then how can I better embrace the storm? I'm so glad you asked. It's by going to a small group. Guys, this is great, don't get me wrong. I like this room, I like coming in here, I like listening to the speakers, and I always get something out of it. But you guys want true healing, true recovery, go to a small group. Because that's where everything's going to be impactful. That's where you're going to get numbers from people. That's where you're going to get loved on the most. Because people in your group are going to be similar to what you are and have gone through similar circumstances that you've gone through. Now, don't get me wrong. I love being up here and talking to people for a few minutes after each service. But that's not enough. You got to find a community that's going to love on you. And if that's not here, so be it, guys. I mean, I'm biased. I think we're the best. I think we're the best on the weekend too. But that's because I'm called to be here. Without a shadow of a doubt. Maybe you're not called to be here. Man, please let me know. Truly, I don't just say that to say it. I want to know because I want the best for you guys. Because we love you guys. Because we've been through the storms that you guys have been through. We know what it is not to have loved ones around us. I've shared this before. I grew up in an amazing household. Mom and dad, brother, just amazing household. But I love as hard as I do because I learned that from my dad. Not only my earthly father, but my heavenly Father as well. But see, my dad didn't grow up that way. My dad didn't grow up when people every day telling him, I love you, I'm proud of you. I'll never forget, I was in middle school. We were doing football practice, and everybody came up to him and was loving on him, and vice versa. He was loving on them. And we got in the car to head home, and I just asked him, I'm like, why do you love the way you do? Because I know what it's like not to have it. So that's why we're here. That's why we love on you guys. That's why we exist, to help real people with real problems find the real love of Jesus Christ.